Hi, I'm Josh, and this is the quarterly plan for Creative Code Competition. People in tech often hold the myth of the genius programmer because coding has a reputation as an isolated activity where a few geniuses go off on their own and create an extremely popular and revolutionary tool. This project aims to dispel that idea and encourage new programmers to treat coding as a collaborative exercise, which is much more reflective of software engineering in the real world, both in industry and open source projects. This project also encourages people to explore the creative aspects of programming through collaboration and discover how collaborative competition can be used to provide a better learning experience as a whole. This quarter, my goal is to research existing methods of teaching code to beginners, especially in competitive or gamified environments. I also plan on researching successful collaborative games and understanding what aspects of those games make them good platforms for encouraging teamwork and communication. With that information, I would like to create a testable prototype for playtesting possible game mechanics in a collaborative coding game. If successful, this work would give me a better understanding of how to move forward and provide some context for other researchers exploring similar paths. People who are new to programming may not know about how often coding as an activity is done in a collaborative environment, and so may be intimidated if they think their contributions won't matter or may dislike the isolation involved in coding. This could lead to them being discouraged about their own abilities and eventually avoiding the field. Alternatively, if they do start learning despite these hurdles, they may have a warped view of how software is produced and could develop poor coding habits that make it difficult for others to collaborate with them in the future. My design argument is, if you want to encourage and teach people to code in a collaborative environment, then you are best advised to make that environment collaborative because it encourages learners to be more creative with code, dispel the notions of genius programmers, promotes better communication and practices when writing code, and better reflects how code is written in the real world. You are also advised to make that environment competitive to incentivize learning. The design process will begin with research into the space of gamified and collaborative learning, especially when teaching programming. From that, we can begin to brainstorm a few mechanics that might promote collaboration and creativity. Once we have our mechanics, we can test those with low-fidelity paper prototypes. And eventually, once we've collected enough data, we can create a higher fidelity prototype and test again. By the end of the quarter, our technology should be functional enough for people looking to learn programming to use. It should provide a good sense of whether the mechanics we've decided on through low-fidelity prototyping are worth pursuing, and if so, how we can improve on those mechanics. It's hard to know exactly what kind of technologies will be used in this project, but since this will be a collaborative game, it would probably be most helpful for the game to be developed for the web, possibly using Unity or another JavaScript game library. It is also possible that a game framework would not be necessary at all. This quarter I will attempt to answer, how do people who have never coded before or are new to coding view the socialness of programming as an activity and the creativeness of programming as an activity? What habits or practices do people pick up, either positive or negative, as a result of learning to code in an isolated environment? What are people's understandings of how software is produced in industry or in the open source communities? What aspects of games promote creative problem solving, and which parts, if any, of those games could be reproduced in a tutorial environment to teach people to code? What aspects of collaborative games promote teamwork among players to achieve a goal, and which parts of any of those games could be reproduced in a tutorial environment to teach people to code? And lastly, what aspects of competitive games promote learning, and again, which parts of any of those games could be reproduced in a tutorial environment to teach people to code? These questions are important because they can help us understand common misconceptions people have about programming as a social activity and how we can correct those misconceptions. I hypothesize that introducing someone to coding in a collaborative context will help them better develop coding habits, and introducing someone to coding in a collaborative context will allow them to understand and synthesize lessons just as well, if not better, than if introduced to coding in an isolated context. We can confirm or reject our hypotheses on the efficacy of collaborative coding in promoting healthier views and practices toward coding by collecting responses to surveys issued before and after the players have used our system. These surveys can gauge the players' opinions on coding as an activity, including how they view its socialness as well as its capacity for creativity. We can also confirm or reject our hypotheses on the educational efficacy of collaborative and competitive environments by taking two populations of people new to coding and having one use our system while the other learns through traditional or self-taught means, and then comparing how well they are able to apply what they've learned to solving programming related problems.